Sisters who watch. Sisters who watch. Sisters who watch.
Chevalier.
Hey, oh, hey. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Welcome to Sisters Who Watch.
Woo! I'm Shelby.
And I'm Laura. And we're sisters who watch everything. TV, movies, sports, concerts, and even violin playing battles. We love to watch, and we love talking about it even more. Today we're watching Chevalier.
The new biopic on a Caribbean French musician, Joseph Bologne. Did my French sound okay?
We're not French.
Yikes. Clearly not.
Joseph Bologne, I think.
I took Spanish, okay?
You took Spanish.
French is not my strong suit.
Exactly. All right. So let's get into the background of this movie. I didn't know much about this film at all.
Nothing.
I heard about this through my mom, actually, through our mom, and it was recently her birthday, and she wanted to see this movie because she was looking at what was out, and she was like, I want to see this. So, and I really had no idea what it was about. And she was like, oh, it's about this. It's like a black a period piece. And I was like, okay. And that's
perfect for mom.
Perfect for a mom. So that's all I knew about the movie going into it. How about you? What did you know? I know that you kind of had a unique experience.
Yes. So while you saw it with the whole family for mom's birthday, I saw it out in LA at a special screening hosted by AFCA, the African American Film Critics Association. I heard about AFCA when I worked at my last job because they would sponsor some events with Morgan Stanley, and I've been following them ever since. So it's great. I'm on their email list. I follow them on IG, so I hear about things they do. And they hosted a screening of Chevalier a few weeks ago in Century City. And after the screening, they held a Q&A with the director. So Stephen Williams was there, which is really cool. And he led a Q&A and gave so much detail about the backstory, the creative process. And it was so cool. So I went into the movie knowing absolutely nothing. But by the end, and of course, after the Q&A, I felt way more informed. And it was just so cool, the whole experience.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. So for y'all who don't know, Chevalier is a movie about a classical musician, Joseph Bologne, who was a slave in the Caribbean, but his mom was a slave and his dad was French. So the dad brought him back to France and was like, this kid is gifted. So let's put him in school. Let's, he plays music. Let's cultivate this skill. So he had this great opportunity to go to all this French schooling and education, and then he rises up in the ranks and becomes a chevalier to the queen. So it's a really interesting story. And what was your biggest takeaway, the thing that you learned from the Q&A session with the director?
Well, what's crazy is because of the French Revolution and Napoleon being like an awful ruler, a lot of, long story short, he's a bad guy. A lot of Chevalier's music and history and journals were destroyed. So there are no journals and letters lasting. So they don't know his inner voice, but they piece together the research and what little was left about him. So it was really crazy that he was almost lost, which is so sad. I feel like there are probably a lot of Black figures throughout history that were lost. But it was great that they were able to piece his story together. So I thought that was really interesting, that there isn't that much known about him and that most of his history was lost.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. At the end of the movie, they had a little blurb saying that Napoleon basically destroyed all evidence of Chevalier's existence, which is so sad. And like we said, this is not a new story. I feel like this film Chevalier is kind of like a Hidden Figures kind of movie.
Sure.
But
smaller scale.
So it was such a cool story. I was blown away by the end of the film because I walked in knowing very little, and I was blown away that this was a true story, and it was such an incredible story. Yeah. So let's dive in.
Yes, I was about to say we should also highlight though the amazing key auspices
Yeah.
that were attached to the film. First, director Stephen Williams, who directed a lot of episodes of Watchmen, which we watched as a family and loved. It was
Mm,
a HBO miniseries from a few years ago, starring Regina King and Yahya Abdul-Mateen. And then you had writer Stephanie Robinson, who's known for Atlanta, who has
yes.
written and produced a lot of those episodes. I know you and Jason love Atlanta. It's a little too
Mm-hmm.
upbeat for me, but I've tried. And then the star was Kelvin Harrison Jr., who I'd say is like an up and coming black
Yeah,
male actor. He's been in Loose, he's been in Waves, so I've seen him in a lot of like indie skewing movies. But it was exciting to see him in another leading role.
yeah, I had not seen him. I'd heard of him, but I had not seen one of his
Yeah,
movies. So I was really excited to see him at the head of this film. I thought he did such a good job.
he
So
did. He crushed.
yeah, I'm excited to see what he does next. That's going to be really cool. Um great. So there's some of the background, the key figures in this movie. Um and yeah, our expectations. We didn't have any. So we
Literally
really
none.
were
Went in blind.
really went in blind.
Which is
Um,
sometimes a really good way to see a movie because you, at least for me, I felt like I went in so open and intrigued to what I was about to see. So it's
definitely.
sometimes better to come in with no expectations.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I was blown away for sure. So I feel like we should highlight some of the main themes of the film.
Yes, go for it, Laura.
Yes. So of course, race is at the heart of this
Of
movie
course.
because of course this, biracial black man from the Caribbean is thrown into this new lifestyle of privilege in
Mm-hmm.
France, but still, you know, as a black man in the time of slavery, he has a lot of challenges, is bullied in school and people do not take him seriously,
Yeah.
racial epithets constantly, lots of people doubting him, being like, why were you promoted to Chevalier?
Yeah.
Why is the queen like you? Et cetera, et cetera. So he had to overcome a lot of challenges
Mm-hmm.
based on his race in this, classic era in this all white, privileged, upper class
For
scenario.
sure. And like you said, like even though he was very privileged, he was still a black man. And I think what's great when you see the evolution of his character in the beginning, he kind of thought, oh, I'm just like them. I can go to the parties and I
Right,
can fight to get the lead of the orchestra in Paris. But he didn't get that because they didn't want to give it to a black man.
right,
And he wasn't able to marry someone of his race because that meant he would lose his title.
right.
They were quick to throw him to the side when he didn't have as much power and favor. So
Mm-hmm.
it was really interesting to see him realize that even though he had some money and status, he is a black man. And at the end of the day, that's how people would view him.
Oh yeah. I think exactly like you said, he, with this role and with power, he had a lot of confidence and was like, because of my skill, I can get whatever I want. I can be bold. I can say whatever I want. But he quickly realized, no, you can't. No, you
Yeah.
cannot. And no, these white people, they don't care how good you are. You can be amazing, but they're not
Really
going to
don't.
promote you because you're black. So he learned that very quickly. And he was so upset. He was like, why did you not pick me? Why did you not? And he had to realize because he was surrounded by white people basically his whole
Mm-hmm.
life. He had to realize, oh, I am not one of them. They made that very clear. So, like you said, that was interesting seeing that growth in Chevalier's character.
Completely agree. And I'd say, like, visually, a really good way that they showed that is in the beginning and throughout most of the movie, he would wear wigs when he went
Mm-hmm.
outside into events. And at the end, when he decides to perform and help um, rally against the queen, he
Right.
decides to wear his cornrows out. That is so
Yes.
powerful. And during the Q&A, the director, someone asked a question, like, was that purposeful? Or was it in the script? And it wasn't in the script, but it's something that they decided to do and discuss as they were filming and thinking about the character. Like, visually, how can you show the change? And I think it's genius. I thought it
For
was such a
sure.
good decision.
Yeah, that was definitely one of my favorite parts of the movie. Seeing him really reject the whiteness that he was raised in, quite literally, and embrace his blackness. Wear the black hair, have the cornrows out. Who cares about this wig? You know, he was rocking his natural hair, and it was just
Yes,
so
he
good to see.
was.
Yes,
So good.
it was a perfect way to sh- to show his growth without having to say anything. And we also saw the theme of race when his mother came back um, to live in France with him,
Yes.
and there was definitely tension between the two of them because he was like, I can do this. I'm one of them. Like, why do you keep on saying that I'm not good enough for these things, et cetera, et cetera? And I think the mom really helped open Chevalier's eyes, being like, you can't, this is who you are. This is where you come from. You have to face that head on.
He was acting like, oh, I'm just like them. No, bruh. You were
No,
not.
the mom had to get him in check.
And it was great when she took him to I would say maybe like the urban area in Paris where all
all the
the
black people.
all the immigrants were. And you could tell like he had like a moment like, wow, these are my people.
Yes.
And so of course, Mama knew. Classic.
Always
Mama
the
knew.
black woman
The black
saving
mom
everybody.
holding it down.
Yes. There we go.
Even in the 16th and 17th centuries,
Yeah.
from the beginning.
It's crazy. Yeah, so race obviously was at the crux of this film. So we had to talk about that first. And of course, this film is set at the beginning of the French Revolution.
Yes, I took a class on that in college.
Oh, yes, history major.
That's right.
So that was a really interesting backdrop, because Chevalier worked closely with Marie Antoinette. And you see the tension between those two growing more and more, because she's like, I can't put you at the head of the opera because of what would the people think. I need to gain the trust of the people, all this stuff. So you see this tension with the war backdrop and the rebellion of the people. And then I loved the Chevalier's evolution because he was kind of high and mighty in the Chevalier title, et cetera, et cetera. But then towards the end, he's like, no, I am the man of the people. I'm going to perform for the people. I'm going to lead them in this war. Yes, and then we find out.
We love the growth.
Yeah, the growth was amazing. And then we find out that he led an all-black military group. Yeah, troop in the French Revolution.
Unreal.
Wow.
That's what we need to talk about, his growth.
I
literally went from working for the queen.
I know.
Friends with the queen.
Rejecting his blackness, all of that.
To leading a all-black battalion in the French Revolution.
I mean,
iconic. So that's why with the story, it's unreal. And his friend, his like white friend who's very like modern, rebellious, was helping kind of encourage him as well to join the revolution and be a part of the change. So I thought that was like an interesting character. And we all need a friend like that who like knows maybe what we should be doing and kind of urging us along, helping us see the light.
Yeah, definitely. So even though Chevalier had some toxic people around him, his mom, his friends, he had a support system that really helped him get to where he was, because he was making some very questionable decisions.
Yeah, he was a complicated protagonist.
Yes. There were points in the movie when I was like, what are you doing? I was like mad at him. It's like, why are you having an affair with this woman whose husband is literally going to kill you? Like, some of his decision making
leads like a army/police force, and that's who you want to mess with,
right? That's whose wife you want to sleep with? Are you kidding? I
not good
mean,
decisions.
no, we got to see him evolve, so we're happy about that.
It's the growth for me. And
That's right.
I know like another theme that we both thought about was like legacy and how there was like unfortunately like an erasure of Black legacy, Black excellence. I mean, one of the saddest moments is after his affair with I'm forgetting her name, the white woman.
That's all you need to know. The lead of the show that he chose.
The lead of the show, the lead actress. She gets pregnant, of course, with his baby, but her husband doesn't know that. So when, of course, the baby comes out and it's a little too brown,
it's a little tan,
he freaks out and he kills the baby.
Yikes!
Literally erasing Black legacy, a Black line. Crazy.
Literally, yeah. Which was really tough to see.
It was tough.
Yeah, that was a rough scene. But it's also like Chevalier, what like
he should have known better.
Yeah, right? Like, what were you doing? Don't have an affair with this woman. And then like be so upset that the baby's born and then the crazy husband kills the baby. You think he's gonna raise that baby? Like I just
I
what?
Thought he was gonna kill Chevalier.
That's what I thought.
That's why there was a huge twist. Yeah. Because it takes a lot to kill a baby, right?
I agree with that.
Like that's really twisted and awful.
Right.
So I thought he might go after Chevalier, but the fact that he didn't, I was like, ooh.
Yeah, the baby, yeah, that was crazy.
And he probably knew that would hurt Chevalier more, obviously.
Right.
And his wife more.
Right. So yeah, Chevalier messed with the wrong woman. So what did you expect? What did you expect, man? So yeah, on top of that, erasing Chevalier's literal bloodline, like we had talked about in the beginning, the erasure of his legacy within music, how we have never heard of him, but after watching this movie and doing research, a lot of people call him the Black Mozart, how he is just as prominent and was doing such incredible things as Mozart, who everyone knows who Mozart is. But no one knows who Joseph Bologne is. No one knows who Chevalier is. And it's just so sad.
It is really sad. And something that Stephen, the director, mentioned during the Q&A is that not a lot of people know about him, but he feels like some people must have, because he said, like, if you watch like movies like Marie Antoinette, there'll be quick glimpses where you'll see like a Black man holding a violin in the background of scenes. And you're like, Chevalier. Like you'll see in like certain movies or history, like mentions of like just like a Black man, or you see a Black man with a violin. And why would you put him there if you didn't know of him?
Right.
So he thinks that he can maybe be found in certain places, but just still not very known, which is sad. But we're gonna find him. We're gonna make sure people know his legacy.
Yes, and that's why this movie is so important. Creating his legacy and educating people. I'd never heard of him, and I feel like the two of us, you know, you were a history major. You took a class on the French Revolution. You know, like it's not like we're living under a rock, and it's just like, how is this the legacy of this like really incredible, notable Black figure erased? It's so sad. So it just shows the importance. We both know the importance of making content and telling stories and choosing the right stories to tell. So it's just incredible that the story was, that movies like this are being made, you know.
Should we talk about our favorite moments?
Yes, let's do it.
Well, for me, the opening scene was amazing.
Oh, and yeah, that was definitely my favorite.
If you can have a really good opening scene, I'm sold. Like, I'm ready.
Right.
And so basically, you start out, you see like a performance, and you realize it's Mozart performing in front of a crowd. And then all of a sudden, a young Black man, who we find out is eventually Chevalier, comes in and challenges Mozart to a violin battle.
Yeah.
And kind of wins. Like,
I mean, 100% wins.
Back and forth, challenges him, and it's just fire. And I was like, oh, this is what we're in for. Okay. Like, I think it really sets the stage well. And the fact that one of my favorite moments is like the first scene of a movie, I feel like you never say that. They did a really good job starting it.
I 100% agree. The first scene was amazing. It immediately hooked you. And you see, like, Chevalier has this swag and this confidence, you know, walking on to the stage, challenging Mozart, who we talked about is one of the biggest musicians of all time. So it was really cool to see that. And then you see the crowd is like, oh, who is this guy? And Mozart is getting increasingly more and more irritated throughout the scene. Like, it was hilarious. And yeah, and then the orchestra starts playing behind Chevalier, and Mozart is like, what? You're turning on me? Are you kidding me?
That's right.
And then the crowd got into it too. So that was awesome. I loved that scene.
It was a great scene. Do you have another favorite?
Yeah, we talked about this before. It was really cool seeing, you know, Chevalier embraces blackness more and more. So I really loved when he was wearing his cornrows. He went out to the black area, the black part of Paris, and he was playing on the bongos with the little kids. With the culture, that was great. I love that scene because it just showed like Mama had to step in. She had to step in and be like, we're gonna bring you back to your roots. These are your people. This is your community. This is where you need to be. And that was such a big change for him. That was a catalyst for Chevalier's growth.
So good. And to your point, I think that was the moment when he was like, these are my people. This is what matters. And a switch flipped.
It was great.
And I mean, there were also some least favorite moments, not gonna lie. We touched on one of these already, but for me, it was honestly his relationship with the white woman. You could, the second she showed up, you knew. And then when you find out who her husband was, you were like, this is gonna be messy, this is bad. But they had an affair anyway. And first of all, she defied her husband by saying she'll do the opera in the first place because he initially said you shouldn't be in the opera. She did that, and then she started sleeping with Chevalier. I mean, it's just everything about that I didn't love. You saw the writing on the wall that this was not going to work out.
Yeah, it just was such a bad idea. Like, I just don't know what Chevalier expected. The husband is psychotic.
I don't think he was thinking clearly.
I mean, clearly not. Clearly he was not thinking. So I agree. That was a frustrating
that was a tough moment.
Dynamic. I agree. And I think we also can agree Chevalier acting all kind of crazy, sloppy, drunk, and like embarrassing himself for the queen. Yeah, that was a rough moment. Because this was after his opera was rejected because they didn't want, you know, him to be the head of the Paris opera because he's black, and he was like, mine is better, all this stuff. And yeah, it just, the politics of it all caused him to not get it. And then he stormed that party and was really drunk, and he had to be like escorted out. Hot mess.
Crazy. And when he was escorted out, he literally, which is what was so crazy, Laura, he almost like got killed, and they almost like ruined his fingers. Remember?
Oh yeah,
they were
the
like,
crazy husband
can't talk to the queen like that, and he somehow got out of there because the white woman was like, "Don't hurt him." But yeah, it was tough. That
was tough. Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, so on to our categories. So my love to hate for this, I think we've kind of talked about it, Chevalier. We love him and his legacy, but in the film, I feel like he was like you said, a complicated figure, and he just was making so many mistakes. I'm just like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
It was a toughie. I completely agree. I couldn't have said any better. He's my love to hate too.
But great legacy. Happy his story's being told.
That should be the line. Complicated figure, great legacy.
There you go. There we go. That's the tagline of the movie. And we talked about this too, the hate to hate Mozart, who was being dismissive of Chevalier in the first scene, being like, this guy can't beat me, whatever.
And was literally considered one of the best classical musicians.
Right.
When in reality, Chevalier was probably just as good or better.
I know, he stood him up in front of all those people, so he probably was better. I know. So for Mozart's legacy and in the film, hate to hate. And Chevalier's mistress, the white woman who led the opera, no, I did not like her. No. And you could tell that she was like, I'll handle my husband. Girl, you're not gonna handle your husband. Your husband's gonna probably kill Chevalier. What was she thinking? She was just like, I just want to mess around with him.
Yeah, I think they both were just so in lust that they weren't thinking.
Exactly.
And it blew up in their faces.
She clearly was just like using him. So
for sure.
Yeah, so that was annoying. And then of course the husband who killed the baby. Very villainous.
Classic villain. Classic villain.
Nothing to like about him. But okay, moving on. So we had 3 hate to hate characters.
Bigger and better things.
Okay, so I feel like you probably say one, but I love Chevalier's mom.
Woo!
She was amazing.
I'm very aligned. Unsurprisingly, Black woman here to save the day.
I know. Look at us once again, saving the day, saving everybody.
We did it in Air. We're doing it in Chevalier.
Everything. Yeah, the mom was so good. Her son was struggling, to say the least, and she really picked him up.
For sure.
And
he also was mean to her at times, but she took it and she still was like, I'm gonna help you.
Right. And she was in slavery, for
the only reason she got out was because her husband, / master. Actually, I don't know if he was her husband, right?
No,
he probably just slept with her.
Yeah.
But like her master, baby daddy died. So she was no longer enslaved. So they sent her to her son. Yeah.
Wow.
So she had no agency, right? Like she didn't get to decide. But I love that she started to have freedom finally. And she made friends with other immigrants and Black people in the city.
Right. So we love Mama Chevalier.
Chevalier.
She was the star of the movie for me.
Star of the show.
Okay, so what are your overall takeaways? What'd you think?
Pleasant surprise.
I agree.
Really blown away. Similar to you, didn't have any expectations. Movie came way above. It also was a reminder of the kind of stories I love and why I think Black history is so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
We need to continue to shed light on these like hidden figures. So I just felt really good afterwards.
Yeah, I agree. I really enjoyed it. Pleasant surprise is a good way to say it. I was truly blown away just by the story. I'd never heard of this guy. Like, it's crazy how his legacy was erased when he was just as talented as someone as Mozart. Very disturbing. And I thought the movie was really well done. The opening scene was incredible. And after we left the movie theater, our mom was like, that was the best movie I've seen so far this year. Like, it just really... And I think it resonates with Black people, but also the theater was not majority Black. There were all kinds of people in there. So I feel like it's a story that everyone can really enjoy. I loved it. Highly recommend to everyone.
Hey, we're aligned, unsurprisingly.
But now we gotta get to our What to Watch segment. Shelby, take it away.
So I'd say in general, I'm just looking forward to see what these filmmakers, storytellers, actors want to do next. So first off, director Stephen Williams. I'm just super curious. Like, I, of course, saw Watchmen and now this, and I just think he's a really great director, and I'm excited to find out what he does next. I know, 2 great projects that we both really loved. Yeah. So I'm a fan, and Stephanie Robinson, the writer, I thought this was really well written. So I'm like, okay, girl, what you doing next?
Yeah.
I want to see.
Me too. And I know that you've been a fan of Kelvin Harrison Jr. This is my first time seeing him in something. I thought he was so good.
He was great. I don't know if there's Oscar buzz, but I think he could be deserving.
Yeah, definitely should campaign. And I remember he was on Jimmy Fallon and we watched an interview and Calvin Harrison Jr. actually played the violin as a kid.
Amazing.
Yes. And he took all these lessons, like months of lessons. So he was actually playing. Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
At the Q&A, the director said that all the actors, they were really singing, really playing, so really fencing. Calvin was actually fencing, so he learned. And I mean, if that doesn't get you an Oscar nom, I don't know what will.
I mean,
Searchlight Pictures, you better campaign for him.
Yeah, we know the Oscars are, high-key problematic. If you listen to our Oscars episode, we talked about all the black snubs. So
can't get our hopes up.
I know, yeah. Keep the expectations
can't get our hopes up.
But yeah, that's something that we're watching, Yes. Let's see if he gets an Oscar nom. I think it's deserving. He carried the film. Yeah. He was really, really good. So let's see. We're hopeful for that.
Either way, we're gonna follow what he does next. I mean, I have seen him in Waves and Loose, so I'm a fan already, but we'll definitely watch his next film. I mean, it's an interesting one. He's gonna be in Barry Jenkins' take on The Lion King called Mufasa. Not that there should be another Lion King movie. I feel like we've probably seen enough.
It's a lot.
I like Barry Jenkins, so I'm curious. But would it be my first choice?
No. Who is asking for another Lion King movie?
No one.
Who is watching that?
The first one's a classic.
I know, and even the remake with Beyonce, like all this stuff, like we were all very excited, but the actual film was just not. Nothing can live up to the original. So I don't know why we keep on trying to do new takes on The Lion King. Yeah, but maybe we'll see it. Maybe we'll see it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like Barry Jenkins. The Lion King is one of my favorite.
Yeah, me too.
Family kids movies, so.
Yeah, we'll see. So that's what we're watching currently. We'll see what's happening for the writers and actors for this film. I mean, overall, we both love this movie. I know that our families loved it. It's a great family watch. I really think this movie is for everyone. It really is.
Support it. I think it's still in theaters, but if not, I'm sure it'll be on some streamer, or you can buy it, rent it. Go support.
Yeah, highly recommend. And if we don't support movies like this, they're not going to get made. So we need, hopefully that's also what we're watching and looking forward to. More movies celebrating figures that were erased from history. We need more movies like this.
Black historical figures.
Right, exactly. So go watch it, go support it so that more movies like this will be made. Yeah, so we loved it. Highly recommend. Well, thank you for listening. Yes, this is so fun to talk with you, Shelby. And I know that we're looking forward to more content like this, more Black stories. That's it. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Go follow us on Instagram at Sisters Who Watch. Go leave us a review on Spotify. We're also on Apple Podcasts. Rate us, follow us, and you can also listen to us on YouTube. Thank you, everyone.
Available everywhere,
wherever you stream podcasts.
Yes.
Bye. Everything.